Hi, everyone. Welcome to Level Up Your Book Marketing by collaborating with authors and influencers. My name is Angela Ackerman, and I'm a writing coach, an international speaker, and I'm the co-author of the best-selling book, The Emotion Thesaurus, A Writer's Guide to Character Expression, as well as its many sequels. Some of you may know me from Writers Helping Writers, which is a popular stop for creatives who would like to master show, don't tell, along with other aspects of writing craft, while others may know me through One Stop for Writers, which is another site I co-founded with my co-author, Becca Puglisi. One Stop is a creativity portal to powerful, one-of-a-kind tools and resources that give writers exactly what they need to craft unbelievably rich stories and characters. And if there's one thing to know about me, it's that I am super passionate about helping writers, and I love finding ways to make storytelling easier for them. And so this is a big reason why Becca and I created One Stop. We wanted to build the sort of tools that honestly, they just don't exist, but we know writers really need because we're writers ourselves. So that's our mission there. Now, as far as me and my writing, I've been an indie author now since 2012. And the series of thesaurus writing guides I've co-written with Becca have sold over 500,000 copies. And the only reason why I mention this is because I've never enrolled in KDP Select or Kindle Unlimited. And until 2019, I've never paid for an ad. So this means that most of my sales are the result of building authentic relationships with my audience and influencers. And so I'm really excited to be talking about this with you guys today. So let's dive in. Now, as we all know, marketing is tough. There are a billion other books out there, and social media is saturated by promotion. And unfortunately, our readers are really overloaded. They get promoted to all the time, not just from authors shouting, buy my book on social media, but also from all the other industries that are trying to snare the attention of their potential customers. So honestly, this makes our readers really sensitive to promotion in general, meaning we really have to think more strategically about how to deliver it and when. It also means we should be thinking about how to reach our potential audience and gain their trust so that our occasional promotion not only stands out from the crowd, it's actually welcomed because they trust us, they trust our brand, and they love what we create. Now, when I first stepped up to the author plate, I was terrified of marketing. I'm not the sort of look at me kind of person, and so I struggled to know how to try to promote my book. How could I do it in a way that didn't turn people off or make them feel like a dollar sign? I didn't come from a marketing background. That wasn't part of my day job or anything like that. So I really struggled. And this is when I realized that to be authentic, I had to embrace the reason why I created the book in the first place, to help writers. And so instead of focusing on trying to pitch my book or convince people why they should give it a chance, I just focused on the people themselves, the people I was trying to serve, and what I could do for them regarding the common ground that we shared, a desire to help each other and become stronger writers. Now I find marketing so much less intimidating when I think of it as building relationships and serving my readers. And this is exactly what I do. I take the time to get to know my audience and what they want, need, and care about. And then I provide it in any way that I can. And because I'm really good at figuring out how to solve my readers' problems and get them what they need, they know I have their best interest at heart. And this means that they trust me and the work that I do. And not only are they very loyal to the books and products that I create as a result, they actually become ambassadors for them, referring them to other people and suggesting that they give them a try. Now, this is the ideal situation for all authors, to have readers that are so enthusiastic about a book that they want others to have the same amazing experience. So they actually promote it for the author. And in a nutshell, that's the power of thinking of marketing as relationship building. Because when you get to know someone, you come to care about them and you're invested in them. And this flows both ways. If you as an author build a bridge to readers through conversation, content, sharing interests, they see that you're a real person who cares. And in return, they invest in you. And because they like your books, they feel good about recommending them to other people. The wonderful thing about building this type of connection with readers is that any author in any genre can do it. It's not a nonfiction versus fiction thing at all. Really, any of us can do it. It's just about finding common ground with readers, things that your readers are interested in that tie into the books that you write. And whatever it is, whatever that special thing is, you can share the passion you have for it with your readers. After all, you wrote an entire book about this certain special element. And you can share that passion with readers the same way that I share my passion for writing with my audience. Now, another group of people that I work to build authentic relationships with are influencers. An influencer is someone who has the ear of their audience. In other words, people pay attention to what they think, what they care about, and they put stock in their opinions and recommendations. Influencers have earned the trust of others, and trust is really important because this is a busy world. And when we want or need something, we tend to listen to the recommendations of people that we trust. I mean, think about it. If you need a blender because yours burned out halfway through your breakfast smoothie, you're not going to spend hours reviewing different products. Instead, you're probably going to go find a friend who makes smoothies every day for breakfast, and you're going to ask her, hey, what works best for you? I mean, you're both into smoothies and you want something that's going to be reliable, right? You don't want it to break down again. So you're going to ask somebody who knows really good products, who uses it every day, and you're going to put stock in that person's opinions. And this translates to books as well, because we basically live in an age where it seems like there's about 8 billion books out there. I know it's not quite, but it certainly seems like that sometimes. And readers can be overwhelmed just by selection. So they're often looking for a way to narrow down their choices. They want to make sure that the time that they're investing in reading a story, it's going to have a good payoff because it's going to be a great, great read. So they turn to people that they've gotten to know, people who have good taste, people who read what they do. Influencers. So as an author, we want to identify people who are influential with our potential reading audience. And once we find them, we want to get close to them and become someone that they trust and believe in turn. Now, influencers depend completely on the type of author. As we all know, one of the biggest ones that people immediately think about are other popular authors. And this is good because they can definitely be influencers. But it's not just about finding authors who write in the same genre. A popular author of, I don't know, a gritty urban fantasy about vampires may not be influential for an author who writes about urban fantasy about magical fae folk living in the real world. For an author to be an influencer, the books should be very similar. And not all influencers will be other authors too. That's the other thing that we need to remember. There are actually a lot of people in different industries that will have the same potential pool of audience as we do. So why limit ourselves to just other authors? A good example of that are book bloggers and reviewers. But we can also think about podcasters. There's lots and lots of podcasters that interview different authors. They talk about the books that they like to read, and they really do a deep dive on the story. There's a lot of listeners that really enjoy doing that because it kind of helps steer their attention as to what book they want to read next. So I want to point out a really good website that you might want to look up later. It's called Listen Notes. And the reason why Listen Notes is really cool is that you can search your own name if you're an author, and you can see if there's any podcasts out there that are already talking about you in your book. That would be really good to know because that's something that you're going to want to make sure that you share those podcast episodes with your readers. But you can also type in the names of authors of books that are very similar to yours, and you can see where have they been interviewed. This is going to show you different podcasters that maybe you want to get to know a little bit better. And you can also search by topic as well. So if your book ties into a very specific topic, you can type in that topic and again, see which podcasters are discussing it. So that's really, really helpful for finding leads for possible influencers. You can also look into bloggers who are blogging on a topic that ties into your book. Chances are you had to go to a lot of different blogs and websites as you researched your story. Let's say you wrote something like a historical romance that looked at the homesteader times, and maybe you looked at different websites that really dug into that era, and they shared different letters that have been found over the years and recipes from that time period. Well, if you have that collection of blogs in your bookmark list, the bloggers who are blogging on the topic chances are the people reading those blogs are people who would be very interested in a romance that you wrote that takes place during this homesteader era. So you might want to look back into your search history and all the different places that you went to research your book, because those could be leads for you and possible influencers. Another thing to think about are businesses with products that are related to your book's special element. Like I said, no matter what genre we write, the chances are there's a special element that's tied to it in some way. Let's say we wrote a book about dragons in the real world. Not only are there going to be a lot of books out there that are about dragons that are going to have their own built-in readerships, people who love dragons, but there's going to be artists who sell dragon jewelry, or graphic designers known for their dragon fantasy art, or dragon role-playing games, or collectibles. On and on it goes. All of these people and businesses will have fans who love anything to do with dragons. And guess what? They might just love my dragon book too. We also want to think about real life connections with media. This might be radio, TV, magazines, anything like that. You may not personally know somebody who is, on radio or works for a magazine, but hey, maybe you have a neighbor or a relative who does. Maybe they have a spouse that works at one of these places, or they know somebody who can help you. Maybe you have a friend at yoga who can hook you up to the correct person to speak to, or an editor that might serve as a stepping stone to get you one step closer to being profiled or have an interview. So again, just think about the people that you know, and don't be afraid to ask the people in your life if they know anyone that can help you, because sometimes you'll be really surprised by how far your connections go. Another obvious one is bookstore owners and librarians. I mean, these are people that love books. Their whole lives revolve around books, and they are, interacting with readers every single day. So if there's a bookstore, your favorite bookstore that you like to go, that you order your books to, or you go to the library a lot because you have kids in school, reach out to those booksellers, reach out to those librarians, and see if there's something that maybe you can do, like setting up some sort of event or something like that. You also want to think about influential members on sites, forums, or groups that are related to your book's subject. So what I mean by that is, again, chances are whatever the special element is that ties into your book, there's probably a lot of people talking about that element online somewhere. And there's going to be forums and different sites and maybe Facebook groups, fan pages, stuff like that. Again, if I wrote that book about dragons, there's going to be a lot of different sites and forums where people are talking about all the different products and movies and video games and things like that that have to do with their favorite, dragon fandoms. So first of all, you probably should consider, if you can find these, you might want to become members of these particular forums or sites or groups and get involved. Start having conversations at these sites, start getting to know the other users. And when I say get involved, I don't mean to just sort of swing by a Facebook group about dragons and then drop your book cover and then leave. This is something that we really don't want to do. It tends to actually do the opposite, and it makes people avoid your book because it's seen as really rude when you do that. We definitely want to make sure that we're building relationships, which means communicating. It means starting conversations and asking questions. Now, if you find different sites or forums or groups that might be related to your book's special subject or interest, an interest that ties into your book, pay attention to the people who are really active. Pay attention to the people who ask a lot of questions, they comment a lot, or if they post things, it seems like a lot of people respond to their comments. These are people who are most likely influencers, and they might be people that you want to get to know. You also might want to think about teachers, professors, or interns, or anyone in the educational sector, if your book has some sort of tie-in to education, and a lot of books do. I don't know if your book might be something where it's, if it's historical and it's a certain time period, and there's, especially if you happen to be writing children's fiction or YA, there could be a class that they're studying that particular time period, and your book might be a good fit. But certainly there are other classes, college programs and things like that, that also study a lot of books. So again, if you can find different types of classes that are they have something to do with the special interest or some topic that your story explores alongside the genre. This might be an avenue for you to look into. And then finally, another one that you can look at is conference, workshop, or special event organizers. As I've said, every book has something special about it, something that's going to set it apart from all other books in your genre. For example, if you studied, let's say, post-traumatic stress disorder really extensively because you were writing a romance between two people who escaped human trafficking, you might have special knowledge or insight that a conference organizer might be interested in because you can discuss the struggles of relationships between people after such a difficult trauma, and you can do so through the framing of the book that you wrote and why it was important to you to show people with post-traumatic stress disorder get their happily ever after. So that's just one example where maybe you can find a conference that ties into that special element. But it's really going to depend on what it is that you're writing about. Another common thing for all authors to do is to look at writing conferences and writing workshops. After all, many of us, not only do we love to write, but we actually love to teach as well. And so this is another avenue that you can explore. If you've got a really good idea for a presentation, then you can definitely reach out to different conferences and workshops, especially ones in your local area, and you can pitch these ideas. You can pitch these workshops, and then you're there and you're engaging with other people that are writers, but they're also readers. I would just suggest that if you do that, try to build a workshop around something that is tied to your particular genre. And the reason why is because the closer that you get to your own genre, the more likely you're going to hit readers in your audience versus people that are just there and they're writers and they're there to learn a very specific topic of writing craft, but maybe you write about romance and they write something completely different, like military fiction or something like that. So if you're a romance writer, try to think of a writing craft topic that ties into romance specifically, and then you'll just have a much better chance of hitting your potential reading audience. And then finally, we have to think about fans. And these are readers, friends, and writers in your close networks. As I said earlier, your readers can be one of your biggest marketing assets because they are super passionate about your books. You've built those inroads of trust with them. You care about them. They care about you. They feel really good about recommending your books. And that word of mouth that you can generate is gold. So don't always think of influencers as always being people that they know just hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people. Sometimes it's your fans, and you never know when they're going to open a door for you. Now, these are just some examples of who our influencers might be, and they're going to be different for each one of us depending on who our ideal audience is. So do make sure that you take the time to think about what type of person would be interested in the book that you're writing. For example, if I wrote a romance between a veterinarian and a dog rescue worker, it's a safe bet that dogs are going to be a big part of the book. Would you agree? So what do I know about my specific audience? That they don't just love reading romance stories, they're also dog lovers. So I can fold that special element into my marketing because I know that when I share contents about dogs online, it's going to interest the type of people most likely to be interested in my romance, if that makes sense. Now let's look at some of the things an influencer can do for you. First of all, they can expose you to new audiences, and this is huge. The reality is even if it's someone that's another author that writes a book that's very similar to ours, we're going to have our own set audience that has read our books, and they're going to have their own set audience that has read their books. But even if they are the same type of people that would enjoy both of our books because they're very similar, they are not going to be the same people. So they can expose you to new audiences. And the reality is we should never shy away from collaborating with other authors that have books a lot like ours because they are not our competition. And I know this is one thing that some writers get hung up on is they worry, well, I don't want to collaborate with someone that has a book too close to me because then then we're competing for readers. It's never like that. The reality is I guarantee you will never be able to write books as fast as your reader can read them. So if you don't have books to show them, and they've already read yours, one of the best ways to stay engaged with your readers is to actually share other books with them that you think that they'll like. This helps remind them that you are an authority, that you do care about their reading experience, and that while they're waiting for your next book, you want to make sure that they're taken care of. And that keeps you at the front of their mind and keeps them patient while they're waiting for your next story. So think about all the new audiences that they can expose you to. They can also give you and your book credibility. And this is a really important one, especially when you're just starting out, or you're just building your platform, or maybe you've just released your first book. That it's hard at first. You're like, nobody knows me. And so you're really trying to get yourself out there. When you build a relationship with an influencer and you start doing things with them, you're getting involved in the same type of events, or maybe you're blogging at their site and things like that, it immediately associates their brand, which may be more well known, with you. And so it can give you more credibility. It'll especially give you credibility if they've read your book and then they're promoting it and they're basically saying, this is a great book, you should go out there and read it. People are going to immediately go, well, this person is someone that I trust and they really know their stuff. So if they like it, it must be a really great book. So again, that's a really important piece of the puzzle too. They also provide opportunities for book and author visibility, which helps build your brand. As I said before, when you work with influencers, your brands are going to become synonymous in many ways. If especially if you target influencers that are really closely aligned to you, not only through the types of books that you write or the audience, but also, the type of person that you are, the beliefs that you have, your communication style, the type of marketing that you do. You might blog at their website, or they may do different things. They may have like an event on Twitter, or a Twitter chat or something like that that you can do with them. Maybe you're going to work with a podcaster. Any sort of opportunity that an influencer can give you, they're giving you a voice to their particular audience. And so that's going to raise your visibility across the board. They can also introduce you to other influencers. This is another excellent, great thing about building these relationships, is that you can build a really close relationship with one influencer, and maybe they get invited into some sort of marketing event with a bunch of other authors or different types of products that are all aligned together. And because you've built a good relationship with them, your name immediately comes to mind as to someone else that might want to get involved. And so, they tell the group, hey, you know what, we should invite this author because she's really great. And I know her book would be perfect for this book bundle, let's say. Well, all of a sudden, not only have you just made a great relationship with one influencer, but now it's kind of opened the door to all the other people that are involved in this particular event. So it can be a really great way to expand your networks, which is something that we always want to do as well. Influencers can also give you valuable insider information and coaching. And this is something where it doesn't matter where we are in the journey, we will always need help. There's always going to be things that, we're going to come up to situations that we haven't dealt with before. There's going to be new technology that we need, new marketing ideas that come on board, or new pathways that we can follow. And sometimes we need advice. Sometimes we need to, know what the best decision is to make. And so we can go to other influencers and we can talk to them. We can ask questions about their own personal experiences. Even things like if you were leaving an agent, let's say, and you wanted to make sure that you did it in a way where the communication lines were open and that you parted amicably, and another influencer, another author who maybe they've gone through that before, you could have a conversation with them about, do you have any advice? Is there anything that you suggested I could do? Things like that. Or if you're looking at getting into audiobooks, let's say, and you don't know anything about audiobooks, you're just starting out and you have a lot of questions and there's a lot of different systems that you can use, and you're trying to decide, should I, be my own narrator or should I hire? Well, you can have a conversation with an influencer, someone that has already been down that path, and it can just really create a shortcut to gaining knowledge. The only thing I recommend that when you go to an influencer for knowledge or advice in any way, is to make sure that you've done your basic homework. You don't want to treat an influencer like they're Google. If there's something that you can easily figure out on your own, make sure you go and do that, because we need to understand that influencers, especially big influencers, they're really busy people and they don't have a lot of time to answer general questions. But if there's something specific that you would like their opinion on, most influencers I know are really helpful. They're happy to help out. You can also partner with different influencers in collaborative marketing initiatives, and this is kind of where we definitely want to go. We want to make sure that we are aiming towards this, building these relationships so that at some point in time we can work together to promote each other. Because as I said, it's almost like having two megaphones. You have a megaphone, and another author, another influencer, they also have a megaphone, and you know a certain amount of people, but not all the people in both groups are going to be the same. And so you get to kind of cross promote. And so your voice is twice as strong. So these collaborative marketing initiatives can really help us with our reach, help get our message out. And as you guys all know, it can be very difficult sometimes to promote yourself and your own book. And it is so much easier to promote somebody else. It just feels better. You don't feel like you're spamming people. You're excited, enthusiastic, because it's something that you love and you like the person. And so you really want to see them do well. And so it's just a lot different when you're marketing someone else versus marketing yourself. So that's the great thing with the collaborative marketing initiatives. Now with influencers, I mentioned before that we need to remember that not all influencers are huge. Some are small, others are big, and both of them kind of have their pros and cons. Now, macro influencers are those that have a really large group of followers and they trust their brand, and therefore they put stock into their ideas, opinions, and recommendations. But there's also micro influencers, and these are people that have the ear of a smaller group of people. They have a more intimate, close relationship. They're more influential in a niche area. Now, again, both pros and cons. Macros have a very big voice, so lots of people may tune into what they have to say, but they also might not have personal relationships with their audience as much as a micro influencer, because micro influencers may have more time and energy to really care about the people in their smaller circle. So that's something to consider. Macro influencers also are really busy. Chances are they've got a ton of stuff that they're trying to juggle. They've got a huge platform, their own marketing initiatives, their own products that they're trying to sell. And so it may be harder to build relationships with them, just something to take into mind. Not saying that you should stay away from macro influencers at all. I'm just saying that it's something to remember, that it will take a little bit more time to build that relationship up. Micro influencers, though, they may be very receptive to a relationship and have more time and energy to work with you when it comes to collaborations. Micro influencers are probably the most likely to enthusiastically enjoy your street team. And word of mouth is also really strong with micro influencers, as I mentioned before, because they have those close connections with people who they absolutely love to read. So micro influencers, they might be your reading fans. They might be a book club or a conference organizer, something along those lines. And you never know when a fan of your book could open a door for you in a big way. So make sure to nurture all of those relationships and think about building relationships with both groups of influencers. Okay, so now that I've kind of talked a lot about what influencers are and why they are so critical to us being discovered by our readers, let's figure out how to get on their radar so that we can build those relationships, and hopefully that's going to lead to some great marketing collaborations, which is of course what we all want. So kind of the first step that I recommend is to really prove that you know your brand. You know that when it comes to finding influencers with your readers, that we want to make sure that they're a really good fit. And this means really understanding our own brand in a way where we know what we're about, because eventually what's going to happen is we're going to reach out to influencers and we're going to put forward the idea of a partnership. You know, we're going to build a relationship that we want with them. And at some point in time, we're looking for them, someone who's a really good fit. But at the same time, they are also going to need to make sure that we are a good fit for them as well. So at any time, an influencer should be able to look you up and get a really good sense of who you are. And that's why living your brand is so, so important. Now, I want to take an example of someone that has a really great brand. So let's look at Stephen King. Everybody knows Stephen King. Now, when you think of Stephen King, you make certain associations. When you pick up one of his books, you have a really good idea of what you're going to get before you even crack the spine or read the back cover of it. And the reason why is because Stephen has spent decades honing his brand. You can expect to be faced with things that are dark and uncomfortable when you read his books. You can expect to have your fears tweaked, and not just the boogeyman in the closet type of fears, but something that's more psychological and raw. I think that's a really good description of Stephen King. So that's kind of what you're expecting. So let's pretend that, and you're going to have to stretch your mind a little bit for this particular example, but let's just pretend that Steve is trying to build a relationship with me because he knows that I could be a big influencer for him because I write the same type of books, but I have a much larger reading audience. Oh, how a girl can dream. Well, if Steve got on my radar because I noticed that he's talking a lot about my books online and he's sharing content of mine on social media and he's sending traffic my way and he's singing my praises and reviews on his blog, I'm going to go check him out, right? After a while, I'm going to notice that his name keeps popping up and I'm going to be super impressed and happy and excited that someone is sharing my content so much. So if I go to his site and I see a bunch of kittens, or I see blog posts on love and relationships and things like that, I'll probably still think that Steve is a great guy and appreciate all the help that he's giving me at raising my profile, but I'm not going to see how we can collaborate together as authors. It just seems like a mismatch. But if I see this, well, yeah, now we're talking. If his site is crawling with killer clowns that eat kids, I can see at a glance that we're going to be a really great fit if I write horror myself, right? So the reality is that when we reach out to bigger influencers, we need to remember that they're busy people. They need to make really effective, smart marketing decisions because they only have so much time in their bucket among everything else that they have to do to push their career forward. So we want to make sure that we're living our brand. So when they follow a link to find out more about us, it's immediately clear to them that we're worth the time to investigate and build a relationship with. The second thing that we want to do is make a list. Now, we can look at all the same type of influencers from my previous list and start coming up with possible fits. Maybe are there podcasters that have hosted authors who write in your genre? You went to Listen Notes, you did a few searches, and you came up with a few ideas of maybe podcasters that would be a really great fit because they have a very big listening audience. So maybe those are names that you want to jot down. Again, maybe you want to check your browser history and think about, I don't know, what foodie blogs did you visit as you researched food trucks and street food for that romance novel that you wrote between two rival food truck drivers? Or what websites helped you as you researched the California Gold Rush for your coming of age YA? The people who visit these blogs are the very people who might be most interested in a book like yours. So remember those website owners, and it's very possible that they could become an influencer for you. You might want to reach out to them and see if you can do a guest blog or give away a book or something like that. Again, think about, does your friend work in a bookstore? Could they connect you with the owner over the possibility of setting up an event? Now, the one type of influencer that we always want to make sure is on our radar is other authors, because authors who write books that are very close to our own will have a reader base that is most likely to be our exact reader base. So identifying these people is a really good idea. And there's a tool here that can help, which is called Yassif. Now, some of you may know Yassif, others it might be new, but what this is Yassif is a visualization tool of Amazon's AlsoBots. And it can help you find books, and therefore the authors of those books, who might be very similar to you, and their books might be very similar to your own book. Now, there's a few ways to do this. You can type your book in up here and see what books come up as the also bots for your own book. Now, as you can see, I've done this with the expanded edition of the second edition of the expanded edition of the Emotion Thesaurus. I know the image is quite small, but hopefully you can see it there. And as you can see, there's all of these lines all over the place connecting to these different books, including to the original version of the Emotion Thesaurus, which is really handy for me to know, because I can see that the new expanded edition has 55 more emotions, and a lot of the people that bought the original have gone on to also purchase the expanded edition. So that's really good to know that for me as an author. But the other great thing is that right away, as I look at all these different books, I can see, oh, look, here's Katie Weiland, here's James Scott Bell, here's Lisa Cron, here's Janice Hardy. There's all of these different authors that people have bought their books along with mine. So if I didn't know any of those people, if I didn't have a relationship already with those particular authors, if I had not read their books before, this is a great opportunity for me to make a list of those books, go and buy them and read them. And if those books are a lot like mine, that tells me that these are authors that I want to get to know, that I want to start building relationships with, because chances are we have very similar audiences. The other reason why it's really great to find authors that are a lot like you is that you can go to their websites, you can go to their social media, their Facebook pages, and you can see the kind of content that they're posting. You know, what do they post to their Facebook page? What do they blog about? What events are they doing this year? And all of this information is going to help you understand how to better connect with your own audience, because you can see what's successful for someone else. And so this can generate a lot of leads for you and a lot of ideas on how to connect with your own audience, which is just really, really great. Now, if, let's say, you have a book that maybe it's just come out and there isn't a lot of also bots, that's totally okay too. You can always choose to put in the name of a book that's a lot like yours. Maybe you know of one book, just one, that is a lot like yours. You could type the name of that book in and see what pops up. And this might generate leads to other books that are a lot like yours that you could investigate. And if there's some commonalities there, then those are books that you're going to want to read as well. And then maybe reach out to those authors and start building relationships with them so that you can do some of this collaborative marketing. The third way that you can use Yasif is even if you're at the point where you haven't quite released a book, maybe you're going to release it later on in the year, you can type in a topic if you like. If you know that your book is about post-traumatic stress disorder, or that it involves human trafficking or something along those lines, you could type that in and see what pops up. And you might also find some books that are a lot like yours, or how your book will be, just by doing that. So this can be just a really, really, really great tool to use. So definitely, when you get time, if you haven't checked it out yet, do check out Yasif later on. All right, the next step that we want to do is to actually investigate our potential influencers. And I do mean a little bit of mild online stalking. I don't want you guys to be creepy or anything like that, or don't break the law or anything. What I am suggesting, though, is that you really go out and you investigate them. Sometimes you see someone that might seem like a good fit from the outside, but once you dig into their brand a little bit, you can discover that they aren't. And this can be for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they have big political opinions and say things online that you don't want to get tangled up in. I've definitely seen that. And if that fits your brand, then that might be exactly what you're looking for. But if it doesn't fit your brand, it's good to know that at the start, before you start getting involved with someone specifically. Maybe you do some research and you discover that they're taking a break, or they're shifting to a new genre. So something else that happens, you know, there's a mystery writer and you love their books and you think that you guys have, you know, a lot of really good similarities between your type of books that you write, and you really admire their work and you want to work with them. But guess what? They've decided to try their hand at science fiction. And so they're shifting gears. And so they're not really promoting their mystery as much. And now they're really focusing more on their science fiction. It could be something like that. Another reason why you want to really check people out is because some people are really well known in the real world, um, and they don't have a very big presence online. For some people, that works for them. But if you're the kind of person where you plan to do a lot of marketing online, you want to do a lot of events because you realize that readers are global and you want to reach them no matter where they are, then that also might not be a fit for you. So again, just take some time to really investigate, because the reality is that the goal here is to find people that you can build relationships with, and relationships, they're going to take time. They're going to take time and energy on your part to build. So you want to make sure that they're a good match for you right at the start before you invest all that time in them. So if an influencer isn't known to you, first thing I suggest is to Google them. Try to find out as much as you can. Try to find out their brand and their beliefs, their communication style. Find out who's talking about their books or their products, whatever applies for them. You're also going to want to search this person or business online to see what social networks and forums they're on. And again, if they are on specific forums or specific social media outlets and you see that there's a lot of their audience on that same network or that same forum, this is probably somewhere that you should join, and get in there and start engaging with them in these places. And look at who they're interacting with and what they share about themselves and what do they do to make their books discoverable. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with paying attention to how other people market and incorporating some of those ideas into your own plan. You also want to make sure that you're checking out their home base, which is their blog or website, because this is going to be their most personal space. And this is where they're going to get the most real with their readers, and it's where their brand is really going to be strong. And that's going to give you an idea of, if they accept blog posts or do they do reviews, like what do they focus on? And you want to spend some time understanding the kind of content they provide for their audience to see if there's good matches there. Basically, you want to ask the question, is this someone that I want to build an authentic relationship with? Does it seem like, you're a good match personality-wise, belief-wise? Is it someone that you admire? If it's an author and they write books, are those books really good quality? Are they the kind of books that you can totally get behind and you want your readers to discover? So really think about those things, because you are going to enter this process with giving your time and energy to this person. If you're building a relationship just with the hope of getting something, it's going to seem inauthentic. So you want to build something really genuine with people, something that's going to benefit both of you in the long run, and that means connecting with people that are a lot like you, where there's a lot of commonalities. Make sense? All right. The next step is you want to put on your thinking cap, because once you find a few really great fits, influencers that you admire what they do, how they interact with their audience, and they seem to be people who really pay it forward. They have that sort of mindset where they help others and they're interested in collaborating. That's where you need to put yourself in their shoes. So you want to think about, what does this person need most? How can I support them so they succeed? How can I make them and their content more visible with our shared audience? How can I organically engage with them online and start building a relationship? And what can I do to show them that we have the same interests, values, brand, communication style, whatever? Basically, the answers to these questions are going to act as your roadmap to getting on their radar. Because whatever you determine that they need most, that's what you want to give them. Just like I do with my audience, and I'm sure that you do with yours. What does your audience need? What do they like? What do they care about? How can I deliver that to them? How can I stay connected to them? You want to do that with influencers, and you want to look at exactly what they need. How can you improve their visibility? How can you make them become even more noticeable to potential readers? How can you expand their reach? How can you let people know about them and make sure that they're gaining new readers? That's what you want to do. Now, after we do this, we want to act. That's the big part where we're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to act out of a genuine desire to help and connect this influencer. Now, chances are with an influencer, especially if it's a bigger influencer, we're probably not going to be on their radar. Or maybe they know us, they've heard us, they've seen our book cover, you know, maybe we have mutual connections, but we don't know each other super well. And that's totally okay. It just means that we need to become visible to them. And so there's quite a few ways that we can do this. Giving your time and energy to them without expectation is a really important part of the process of building a relationship. And it's going to take time. You can't lose faith or get impatient, and most of all, you really don't want to think about you at this point. It's all about giving and not getting. It's about building a friendship and a mutual respect. Oh goodness, I don't know what I did there. Sorry about that. So here are some of the things that you can do to follow up on all those great ideas that you had with your influencer and how you want to connect with them. So first of all, you want to engage and be authentic. And for you, engaging might be to comment on their blog posts, to join their page and newsletter, to interact with them on social media. I don't know, you could share their links, but if you do, don't just retweet. That's really easy. And it's forgettable too. So you want to do something that makes yourself memorable. Maybe you want to add a note on a tweet or on a Facebook post of yours saying why you're sharing this link or why you're sharing this thing and what you like about it, because that is a bigger form of communication. You're trying to have a conversation, not only with the influencer, but also your audience. You're conveying to them why you think that this is a great link or why you think this influencer is someone that they want to pay attention to. And when you do that, make sure that you tag the person. And the reason why you want to tag the person is you want to make sure that they know that you're talking about them online. You can also share. So again, you might want to start searching out old guest posts of theirs. If they're a guest poster and they do a lot of stuff on different blogs, maybe around when they've released books, you might want to look and see if you can find some that are still relevant, along with new guest posts as well. And the reason why I suggest doing this is, again, it shows a certain level of thoughtfulness. I've had situations where I've shared someone's blog posts that are much older, but they're evergreen. There's still content that I know my audience is really going to enjoy. So I share it. And I'll get a message sometimes from these people going, wow, I haven't seen that article in a long time. Thanks for sharing it. You know, it's nice to see it back out there again. And I mean, I'm happy to do that because in my field, in writing, you know, writing advice it really is evergreen. And so it's really sad for me when people put all this time and energy into crafting something for their audience, and then it just gets forgotten after a couple weeks because it's fallen off the, you know, the homepage of a blog. So why not share those articles again when they're going to help people? And there may be different articles that your influencer that you're trying to connect with, maybe they've written that you can share with your audience that they will still find valuable or interesting, especially because hopefully you're picking things that tie into a very specific element where it's included in your book and it's also included in theirs, or it's very tied specifically to the genre that you guys both write. You can also review their books or products. You can suggest your audience follow this person and make sure you say why. But no matter what, be genuine. Try to raise their profile and send new people to them, but don't just do it because you're trying to get something from them. Again, this is about building relationships. And to do that, you really want to go into it without expectations at this point in time. Third thing you want to do is to be really generous. Give your time towards helping this person build visibility. Or you can give away a product of some kind, a book or an item that they sell as a prize, maybe to your own audience. And let them know you're doing this. If you decide to do these things, make sure that you do this. But generosity is also about your time. Again, if this is somebody in the investigation stage where you have realized that, you know what, I really admire this person. There's so many qualities that I like about them, and their writing, I really feel good about promoting them, then you should care and you should really want to increase their platform and increase their reach and bring new readers to their doorstep. So be generous and really, really think about how you can help them. Don't think about what you're going to get from them. Make sure to thank them for their content. This is another way where you can stand out to them. I have sometimes had the most random posts on my Facebook page where I've shared something from my own personal life and I've had someone say to me, you know, thanks for posting that because that was actually really helpful to me because I'm going through XYZ situation. Or it might be something where they, on their Facebook page or on Twitter, they're talking about a struggle that they're having of some kind and a solution that they found that has helped them. And who knows, maybe that solution has helped you as well. And if that's the case, make sure to thank them for that. Thank them for their content, or just thank them for sharing the things that you enjoy. Because again, if you guys are both writing about the same things and you're interested in the same topics and you have the same passions, chances are there are things that they are posting that you really enjoy. And so that should be very authentic for you to say thank you. A blanket offer to help is another thing that you can do. That's a great way to stand out. So pay attention to something that you're trying to achieve and try to help them, even if they haven't asked. Going back to that last example, if they had a struggle of some kind on Facebook, you know, something they were trying to figure out, you know, there's nothing stopping you from doing a little bit of investigation, pretending that that's your problem. Maybe they're trying to figure out audiobooks, for example. And, you know, you could do a little bit of research. Maybe you find a really good article on audiobooks that deals with this specific situation that they're dealing with. And you could send them the link. By the way, I found this. I don't know if it'll help you, but I just thought I'd send it to you. Again, little things like that, little bits of kindness where you took your time to help somebody, that really stands out and that makes you memorable. So think about being proactive. It's really going to get you noticed. Another thing that you can do is if you know that they have a book coming out in a few months, if this is another author as the influencer, you can ask if you can be on their street team, if they have a street team. And maybe they haven't even announced it yet, or they haven't even started thinking about that yet. You could be proactive and you could offer that up. And not only is that a great way to get to know somebody being on their street team, but you also learn a lot about marketing because you get to see it through the window of somebody else. And when that somebody is someone that has books that are a lot like yours, that can be super, super helpful. So you want to watch for opportunities. If you see an opportunity that comes along that might help them in some way, tell them about it. Maybe there's a group that you know of that will be a really good fit for them to do a Twitter chat, like a Q&A or something like that. Or you happen to know a blogger that you've done a lot of guest posts for on a certain topic that ties into the subject matter that is common between your book and their book. And you want to introduce them. You want to say, you know, I've done a lot of guest posts for this particular website, this blog. They have a really engaged readership there. Maybe you might want to try, you know, seeing if they would like a guest post from you. So just think about those things. And, you know, if it feels right, let the influencer know about those opportunities. And then most importantly, we want to be consistent and patient. We want to pay attention to what they're doing and try to assist them however we can. But we always want to make sure that we're not spamming our own readership. We want to be really careful about that. So again, be really organic, only share the things that make sense. You don't want to go overboard. You don't want to spam your readership. You never want to do that. But do try to consistently make it about them and think about, you know, ways that you can help them. You basically want to give and then give some more and realize that this is going to take time. Especially if they're a bigger influencer, it's going to take time, but eventually, you know, if you keep tagging them, if you keep doing these nice things for them, if you keep paying it forward and just try to help this person improve their reach and get discovered by new readers, they are going to notice and they're going to want to reciprocate. Now, the step number 6, the last step, is that eventually at some point in time, everything's gone well for you. You have a relationship with the influencer. You've had conversations with them. You see give and take online. You're sharing their content and they're sharing your stuff. That kind of stuff is happening, and things feel really easy and relaxed between you. At a certain point in time, you're going to think about, okay, I think it's the right time to approach them with a marketing collaboration idea. Now, again, we need to remember that influencers, especially really big ones, are busy and they have a lot on the go. You know, they've got their platforms to manage, they got their books to write or their products to create, they've got a business to run, just like we do. And so we want to be really respectful of their time. So it's really important that when we approach them that we're really prepared, and there's several things that we want to keep in mind. So first of all, we want to think about timing. You want to be really aware of things that are happening in the influencer's life. If you have noticed that they're talking about being under a tight deadline on Facebook, or they have a product launch coming up, or they're juggling a website upgrade or something like that, or it's Christmas holidays are coming, probably not the right time to approach them. So wait for a good time when they aren't swamped, and you will be much more likely to get a yes. The next thing you want to do is to be personal in your communication. This one is really important. When you reach out to them, make sure that you take the time to craft a personal message. Even if you're planning a collaborative event that's going to involve a group of people, I know this takes time to send everyone an individual message, especially at the start of a collaboration, but most people can really spot like a one-size-fits-all message. And I have to tell you, it's a bit of a turnoff, especially if it's your first time reaching out to someone to collaborate. So I really recommend the personal approach. I can't tell you how many times I've been contacted by people that they ask me something right out of the gate. They want to do a guest post, or they have a link that they're looking for a backlink on my site, or they want me to, I'll get messages from promoters that they have authors that they want to us to review books, or something along those lines. And it's really frustrating to me when I can tell that they've done no research whatsoever on the kind of content that we have on our blog or anything like that. And there's a complete mismatch. So you always want to make sure that you're doing your research and that you're being personal, because a lot of these promoters, when they'll send you an email like that, or a lot of people that are looking for marketing leads, they send this one size fits all letter. And you can tell that this is something where you're just a name on a list and you have been sent the same message as a million other people. It's just, it's quite a turnoff. So you don't want to do that. You want to be different. You want to stand out. You have a relationship with this person, so make sure to be personal. You also want to plan and be organized. So really think about the details of this collaboration and how it's all going to work. And don't get too complicated as you present it to them, especially at the outset. Really at the outset, you just want to get them really excited about the idea. And if it seems like they're interested and they want to move forward, that's when you can supply more ideas. But the main point is you want to have a really firm understanding of how this event is going to work, and be prepared to talk about it if they ask questions. You also want to know your why. And what I mean by this is you want to be able to explain to the influencer what you want to achieve through this event or collaboration, and why this particular influencer is the perfect fit for it. So be ready to articulate how this collaboration is going to directly benefit them and how it's going to help them in an area that they need. Like it's helping them tap into a new audience source through cross promotion, or it's going to help them get traffic coming to their site because maybe they just released a book, something like that. So know your why and know how to kind of pitch this idea, this collaboration. The other thing you want to do is make it really easy to say yes. When you're pitching this idea to the influencer, be ready to drive the project. And what I mean by that is be ready to do a lot of the legwork, because the easier that you make it for them to participate, the more likely that they're going to want to be a part of it. If you're running a promotion, for example, be prepared to create the images, write up promotional materials, anything that you're capable of doing. And this really acknowledges to the influencer that you appreciate their time. You understand that they're under time constraints, and it reinforces that you're generous and you want to help them as much as they help you. And then finally, you also want to say thank you. If for some reason, if they say no, maybe it's not the right time for them to do a particular event with you, still say thank you. Because if they can help in some way, that's great. But either way, you want to make sure that you show appreciation, that they thought about it at least. Okay. Now, when you're collaborating, let's say that finally they say yes, they're going to do this event with you. So when they are collaborating with you, you want to make sure that you've shown that you've thought of all the angles. So this means that, again, in that planning stage, you understand how it's all going to run. You've already thought, things through about where the event is going to be hosted, how things are going to roll out, which different social networks you're going to implement, if there's going to be a strong Instagram component, what the schedule is going to be like, all of that kind of stuff. But you also want to be flexible, because they may be really excited about this idea and they have ideas that they want to contribute. And if that's the case, definitely listen to them. You know, influencers have probably been doing this longer, or they have unique insight into how to reach their particular audience. So if they have an idea that they would like to try that fits in really well, don't be afraid to incorporate that idea. Make sure that you make room for their ideas, or help them steer if they want to do that. Sorry, I'm having problems today, aren't I? Okay. You want to make sure that you're ready with everything that they need, so that you have your images, your links, the schedule, sign up forms, marketing copy, all of that kind of stuff, that you've got that all under wraps. You also want to be enthusiastic and give updates. This is something else that I think is really important, especially when you have the type of event where it's going to unfold over a longer period of time. For example, every Christmas, I do an event called the Advent Calendar for Writers. And so for 14 days at Writers Helping Writers, we give away a tremendously awesome prize that's geared for writers. And it's always a surprise. It's like a little Advent calendar. You have to open it up to find out what it is. And it's a giveaway inside. And so every day there's a new giveaway that my audience that they can sign up for. And the people that are involved in this collaboration, the different people who are sponsoring prizes, I make sure to check in with them throughout those 14 days. I don't just, ask them for everything that I need from them at the very start of the event. I make sure that I'm checking in with them throughout the entire event and let them know how things are going. I might share more materials if I have some more graphics that I would like them to use, that they might save them time, or if I have some promotional copy that's going to save them time, or pre-made tweets that I want to give them, that kind of stuff. So I might share that, but I also let them know, some of the cool things that I'm noticing. Like if I'm noticing like a particular, one of the particular giveaways from one of the people that are participating, if it had a huge spike of traffic, I want to let them know that. Or if I notice that people are commenting on these giveaways and they're saying really nice things about the people who are giving away these prizes, because maybe they, I'm working with Pro Writing Aid and they already have a Pro Writing Aid membership and they love the tool. And so they're really singing the praises of Pro Writing Aid. I want to make sure that I reach out to them and let them know, hey, there's somebody in your audience that's really enthusiastic about your product. You might want to stop by and leave a comment for them, because I want to make sure that everyone gets the most out of every event. So it's really important to stay connected to the people that you're working with in a collaboration and just keeping that communication open. You also want to make sure that it's fun. Now, the reality is when you are steering a marketing collaboration, it's always a lot of work. It's always a ton of work. And sometimes things go wrong. That's just how it goes. But it's important to never, let that sideline anything. When you're talking to your influencers, when you're talking to the people that you're collaborating with, you don't want to talk about the negatives. You want to talk about the positives. You want to keep that energy level up. You want to keep everybody excited, and you want to make it fun, because when you do, that's when they want to collaborate with you again. And then again, just even if they've said no, you want to say thank you for their time, for considering it at least. But when they say yes, you definitely want to say thank you at the end of the collaboration. This is something else that I notice sometimes people forget about. And I think the reason why is because, again, when you do an event with somebody, the person that's shouldering most of the work, it's a lot of work. And by the time it's over, they're completely drained. They probably have a lot of things that they need to sort of do for cleanup. Like if there's been giveaways, they have to draw the winners, they have to notify the winners, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes they forget about one of the most important things in a collaboration, and that is to reach out to the people that you're collaborating with and thank them for participating. It's kind of a really nice final bookend, and it leaves them feeling like they're valued, that you appreciated their contributions, that you enjoyed working with them. And that's exactly the kind of messaging that we want to convey to the people that we collaborate with. So don't forget to say thank you at the end of a collaboration. Now, if they say no, and sometimes this will happen, what you want to do is you want to go ahead with that event and you want it to be so awesome that they will regret the fact that they couldn't do it. And honestly, if they say no, don't feel bad. It happens. It happens all the time. It happens to me. And sometimes it's timing or the opportunity isn't right or something else is going on. And it doesn't mean that we don't keep working on this relationship with this influencer. It doesn't mean that we don't try again to fold them into a marketing collaboration later on. We absolutely want to continue doing that. It's just the reality is sometimes different people have a lot of things going on at different times, or they've got events that conflict and they can't always say yes. So what we want to do is put everything that we have into the event, working with whatever influencers are involved, whoever else we're collaborating with, and we want to apply creative thinking and strategy to make sure it's really visible, that lots of people are talking about it, and everyone involved really benefits. Because when we do that, again, when it's really noticeable online, the person who, they were unable to participate, they're going to notice it. They're going to see this event and they're going to realize, holy cow, this was a really great event. And man, I really wish I could have been a part of it. The other thing that you can do to, again, stand out is to not forget about the influencer who said no. You want to, if you can, fold it into your event, continue to raise their visibility by encouraging people to check them out and be, of course, 100% genuine. You wanted to collaborate with them for this particular event because they have something to offer. They have a book that's very similar, something like that. So even though they said that they couldn't participate, it doesn't mean that you stop caring about trying to raise their visibility. It's a relationship. And so when you continue to help them unsolicited, you're showing that you're really, really invested in them. Maybe you have some kind of event where you're drawing, you have a group giveaway and you're giving away a whole bunch of books. And at the end of the giveaway, you can let your users know on Twitter or on Facebook, hey, if you didn't, if you didn't win, that's okay. You can find all these books on Amazon, or I've got them all profiled on my site. I've got reviews, whatever the situation is. And then you can say something like, and by the way, if you're looking for another really great book, why don't you check out this book by this author? And that's a really great way to fold them in, even though they weren't actually part of the collaboration. And again, it's just an example of how you can go above and beyond for someone. And make sure you tag them. Make sure that they see that you're talking about them in that way. So bottom line, you really, really, really want to be authentic. You want to focus on building relationships and not trying to use people for what they can do for you. I mean, clearly, when you're talking about collaborating with influencers, there's some marketing strategy involved in that. But when you build relationships, authentic relationships with people, you're going to build really healthy influencer relationships, which are a two-way street. And that's what we want. We want to build relationships with influencers where we're helping them and they're helping us and we're both benefiting. That's really what we're looking for. Well, guys, that is it from me. I hope you found this helpful. As always, you can find me all over social media and Writers Helping Writers, of course, and also One Stop for Writers. In the case of the latter, if you're interested and familiar with the writing guides that Becca and I write, you might like to know that One Stop for Writers has the largest description database available anywhere, containing not only all of our thesaurus books, but 15 descriptive thesaurus databases in total. We actually have written so many more thesauruses than we have books. So if you would like to see them all in one place, of course, we're always adding to that database as we go along, you can find them all at One Stop for Writers. And this Show Don't Tell database is just one resource at the site. So please check it out. There is even a free trial, so you can check it out for free. Thanks again for spending a bit of time with me, and I wish you all the best with your marketing. And again, if I can ever help, please reach out.